The agenda for today's session is going to be how do you crack the MBA CET in 60 days. You have roughly about 60 days. So how to prepare for the test in this period and how to take your SIM CETs and how to analyze them and all of that. That's what we are going to discuss. Alright, so let's first start with what are the things that we are going to cover, right? So in today's session, firstly, we are going to start with awareness, right? So awareness means knowing yourself as a candidate, right? So who you are, what are the scores that you need, what kind of colleges you are aspiring to get into, and things like that. The second is going to be the analysis part of it, right? Which is to figure out how do I analyze my test, what are the things that I look forward to, etc. Second is 2 months plan. The third thing is 2 months plan that we're going to discuss. So how do you sort of break the 60 days that you have ahead of you? How do you break it down into various phases and what do you do in each of these phases? And finally, we'll talk about any questions that you may have. Okay, so I'm going to take questions from the YouTube chat. As I mentioned, whatever query you have, you can just put it there and I'm going to answer it. So Bhakti will be taking that question. So as you have asked, can you please share a daily routine which we can follow for the next 60 days to cover the syllabus and mocks, and how should we prepare like questions per topic, etc. Yeah, sure. So we're going to be discussing that as part of the session. So let's first start with awareness, right? So it's very important when it comes to CET that you know who you are as a candidate. So you have to know, are you somebody who is very good at, let's say, speed? Are you somebody who is good at accuracy? Are you good at both of them? What exactly are the issues that you are facing at this point of time? Another thing that makes a lot of difference is what all other tests have you taken or have you prepared for those tests. For example, if you are somebody who has already prepared for CAT or NMAT, SNAP, MyCAT, etc., then the prep that you do for CET will be different compared to somebody who is preparing for CET exclusively. So if you are somebody who is thinking of only, let's say, CET, or you have just appeared for CMAT, or you're thinking of MAT, ATMA, etc., the preparation varies from individual to individual. So depending on what you have done prior to this, the amount of preparation that you will have to do will be different. So let's say if you are somebody who has not done anything so far, you haven't taken any other entrance test, you are just about to start your CET preparation, you will have to put in significantly more effort compared to others. So your daily prep time could go as high as say 6 to 7 or 8 hours as well. But for somebody who has already taken say an NMAT, SNAP, CAT, etc., you don't have to prepare so much for the content part of it. You have to prepare a lot, however, for the actual test taking part of it, because the test is very different compared to the other tests that you have taken. I think the closest that comes to the time available per question when it comes to CET is going to be SNAP, because if you look at SNAP as a test, it's a 60-minute 60 question paper. That's like the closest that you have, right, in terms of the time available per question. You have to identify your strengths and areas of improvement. So that is very important. I have to know what I am good at. See, by now I'm sure all of you know the sections and everything that is out there in terms of syllabus. So that I'm not going to spend too much time on, but you have to know what is it that I'm good at. So I've met a lot of students and thousands of students over the years, and whenever I meet them, students will say something like, I'm not good at VRC, or I am not good at visual reasoning, for example, the abstract reasoning as we call it, or I am not good at, say, logical reasoning. It doesn't work like that. You won't be bad or you're not good at one particular area. There will be specifics and you have to always identify the specifics. For example, when I was a student, we used to get a lot of questions related to questions such as, say, parajumbles, assumption, conclusion, inference, etc. So I was very clear that these are the question types where my accuracy is not that great. But the accuracy, you have to know what it is. So let's say I pick any topic, say time, speed, distance. I solve, say, 30 questions of it and I get 20 correct, right? So my accuracy is 66.66%. So I have to know what is my normal accuracy or average accuracy in each of the topics that are there. So I'm not talking about the area, you have to go to the topic level. And that is where the specific comes into picture, right? So as I have mentioned here, that within arithmetic, you have to be clear that, let me say, I need to get better at successive percentage change questions. So I'll not say I'm bad at maths, for example, but I'll say, okay, fine, within time, speed, distance, circular motion questions are the ones where I struggle. or within say the area of VRC, maybe para-jumbles is the question type where I struggle, or summary is the question type where I struggle. So be specific, because then you know what you need to work on. But if I say that I'm bad at VRC, it's very difficult for anybody else also to guide you in that sense. So if somebody comes to me and says I'm not good at visual reasoning, the only answer that I can give is practice more questions. But if you say that no, for me series questions is the problem, right? Then we know that okay, that is the question that you need to practice more. So be very, very specific about the things that you say. So even when you talk to your IMS mentors, right, make sure that you give them specific information, because then their advice will be far better. All right, now let's talk about score versus percentile. And see, for the last couple of years now, CET has stopped releasing the actual score that you get. So at a point of time, CET used to give you the score that you get and then the percentile. But now in the last few years, they have stopped doing that. The only thing that you get in the result is the percentile. You don't get to know the raw score that you have got. It was only last time when they actually released the paper also in the public domain. So till prior to that, they never used to release the paper in the public domain. So for last year, we have the papers. The years prior to that, we do not have the exact papers. So till last year, people could have even figured out that okay, at least this is the raw score that I'm getting. But prior to that, we don't have any information. But if you look at multiple CETs that have happened in the past, and if you look at, let's say, something like a very moderate level CET paper, these are the typical scores that people have got, right? Which means that if you are, let's say, somebody who is aiming to get in top 10 institutes through the Maharashtra MBA CET, the cutoff for which is generally around 95 percentile, you should be aiming for at least a 100 score. So generally when people ask how much score should I be targeting, I ask them what colleges are you targeting. So if somebody says okay, I want to get into top 10 colleges, I'll say target at least 100 raw score. If you have higher than that, nothing like it, better for you. And of course, if you're targeting top institutes, you'll have to do more than that, correct? So if you're looking at, let's say, top 4 institutes, you should be aiming for something like a 99.5 percentile, and that is generally around 125. So if you're targeting top 10 colleges, I would say about 100. If you're targeting top 4 institutes, I'll say about 125. If you're targeting JBIMS, right, and JBIMS cutoff for say Maharashtra students, the state candidates, is generally around 99.9. So we know that you need to get to at least a 135 plus, right? And when I say 135 plus, in some years it can be 140, in some years it can be 145 as well, right? In some years it can be 150 as well, and that depends on the difficulty of the test. So all of this is assuming that the test is of a moderate difficulty level. We exactly do not know how the paper is going to appear. So the only thing that you can prepare for is, let me at least get these benchmarks that I have given here, at least this much in my mock test. So whatever mock test that I take, let's say if I'm hoping to get into JBIMS, what should be my target score? Let me aim for a 130 or more, or 135 or more. If I'm targeting, let's say, top 4 institutes, let me aim for 125 or more. For top 10, it should be 100 plus. Okay, so that way at least you can have some idea as to what score you should be targeting. Having said that, see, this is again not going to be exact, right? So if paper tomorrow comes out to be easy, all of this can go up by 10 marks. If the paper comes out to be difficult, all of this will drop by 10 marks, right? So it depends a lot, because there have been instances in the past where JBIMS cutoff, topper has been around 145, right? So there was one particular year of CET where it was very, very difficult. The topper of the test was 145, okay? And there have been cases where the topper has gone to 180 as well, right? So it depends a lot on the difficulty of the test. So you should not be working with a set number in mind, but you have to know that okay, at least for a moderate paper, I should be aiming for 100 plus for top 10, 125 plus for top 4, and closer to 140 or 135 plus if I'm targeting say a JBIMS, right? Because see, on that day, of course, a lot of things will have to work for you to get to JBIMS. Some of your random marks also have to work in your favor. So I'm not accounting for all of those at this point of time. Just saying in sim CETs how much score you should be targeting. Okay. When I say sim CET, I'm talking about full length mocks in general. Now let's talk about the analysis part of it, because the test analysis is very, very important. In fact, that is the one that creates the maximum difference in your preparation. So you have to analyze your papers really well. And if I were to just walk you through my routine, right, when I was a student a long time back and I was preparing for the CET, used to be that every alternate day, so in the last 2 months or so, I ended up taking every alternate day I was taking one test, and then every alternate day I was revising what I was doing, right? So revising the areas of improvement and things like that. So the analysis bit becomes very important. So I used to take a test generally in the afternoon, because that time it used to be everybody used to take the test in a single slot, and the slot was also kind of known, right? So I used to take in the same slot, which used to be I think 2 to 4:30, I guess at that point of time. I used to take the test. Evening used to be analysis time, so go through all the mistakes that you have made, questions that you could not answer, etc. And the next day solve more questions of those areas. So that used to be the routine, and then again you basically just keep repeating that. But the mock analysis is super important. It makes a lot of difference. If somebody takes, let's say, 20 mocks without analysis versus somebody takes, say, 15 mocks with analysis, I will always choose the second one, which is 15 mocks with analysis. The analysis part is super crucial. So what you do in analysis, right, is you figure out a lot of things. The first thing is attempts. So do I have enough attempts to get to a score that I need? So let's say you're targeting a score of 125, but your attempts are only 100. Then right now you are not in a position to go to that score. So you have to push your attempts, obviously, correct? Accounting for accuracy, etc., you'll have to, of course, attempt far more than that also. So I cannot say that my target is 125. Let me attempt 125 questions and I should be fine. That is not going to happen in CET, because you invariably end up making mistakes. A good accuracy percentage to target, which is the next thing that I was going to discuss, is somewhere in the range of 80 to 85%. Okay, if you can get higher than that, fantastic, but 80 to 85% on average, that is the accuracy that I will look for. Now, why 80 to 85%? Because there will be some topics where you can have 100% accuracy. A lot of math topics, for example, fall into that category. A lot of questions related to, let's say, simple grammar rules, or questions that are very basic logic puzzles, linear arrangements, blood relation questions, can fall into that category. But there will be some questions where your accuracy will be on the lower side. Let's say a very difficult vocab question, maybe you don't know, so your accuracy is going to be low. Or things like assumptions, inference, conclusion, the critical reasoning part of it. Or let's say you have something which is very, very difficult, some puzzle comes which is too difficult to solve. That is going to bring down your accuracy. So in some cases you may have 100% accuracy, in some cases let's say 60% accuracy. If you are finding a balance and it is coming around 80 to 85% accuracy, that I think is a very good position to be in. It means that if you have done, let's say, about 120 questions, your score should be around 100, assuming about 83% accuracy, right? So you have to understand that equation. See, if somebody is targeting, let's say, a score of 120, right, you may attempt 120 questions with 100% accuracy, which is extremely unlikely in CET. Or you can say attempt 150 questions with 80% accuracy and get to 120. You have to figure out whether you are sort of a conservative person when it comes to attempt, or you are somebody who goes all out and attempts more questions. I would always choose somebody who is attempting more questions, because potentially you can score higher, but at the same time your accuracy cannot be super low. So somebody attempting 150 questions with 50% accuracy, that is not going to help you. You are at just about 75. Instead, you could have done, say, 100 questions with 90% accuracy or 80% accuracy, and you still would have been in a better position. So figure out where exactly you stand on the attempt accuracy paradigm, where exactly you sit there. Then topic wise accuracy. So I have to know this really well. I have to know, so naturally, for example, in my case, I knew when I was a student that assumption, inference, conclusion. Do not spend too much time on this. Whatever you can answer and move on. But cover up for the accuracy thing in some other questions. So in quant questions, I used to have personally 100% accuracy, almost 100%. In DIs, used to have high accuracy. In LR arrangements and puzzles, high accuracy. So there were these areas where I was very, very good. And then there were areas where I used to struggle. So you have to know topic wise where exactly you stand. And then comes question selection. So a lot of times there is a temptation that you see a question and you feel like solving it, but you have to be clear whether I know this or I think I know this. So there is a temptation and you have to resist that temptation. If it is something which is doable under a minute, you do it and you move to the next question. But if it comes out to be something which is tricky, let me not get into it. So I have generally the strategy that I follow is anything that I see which is outside my comfort zone, I am not going to touch it in the first round. I will always come back to those questions in the second round. So I am very good at looking at a question and telling myself that hey, I know this, or hey, I don't know this, or I know this but this is not the time to get into it. Let me come back to it in the second round, or once all the easy questions have exhausted, I am going to get into this. See, CET is not going to reward you for doing difficult questions. It is going to reward you for the number of questions that you get correct. That's it. So do all the easy questions from the paper. Even if you do that, you will be in a position to get a decent score. The problem that a lot of students have is they sit on questions for long time. And there could be other questions that are available which are actually easier, but you're not even reaching those questions because you're sitting on the difficult ones for a long time. Okay, so figure that out, and of course the mock analysis that you do helps you to identify all these things. So you have to ask yourself, and in for my MS mocks for example, against every question you see how much time you have taken. Now that is a very important thing, because if you see that there is a standalone question and you ended up spending 2 minutes on it, it is telling you that you are off from the expectation. Ideally you should have done it in say 1 minute or 45 seconds. You have spent 2 minutes on it, which clearly tells you at this point of time it is not a comfort area for you. So what will I do? I will go back and do more questions of that topic. Or if I see a question and I can see that I got it wrong, right? Go back to your books, the courseware that has been given to you, or the online topic test that you have. Practice more questions of that area, correct? So if I tomorrow do a lot of mistakes in geometry questions, the next step for me is super logical. Go back to your books, study more geometry, do another 20-25 geometry questions before I take the next SimCET. So the SimCET analysis helps you to figure out what you should be doing between two CETs. So if I take a mock today and I'm planning to take a mock, let's say on Wednesday, in between this period, what should I be doing? That will come out of the SimCET analysis. Okay. And then finally, time distribution, right? So another important area. So how much time I'm spending on every area that is out there, and that helps you to strategize better. So if I see that on abstract reasoning, for example, you should be spending not more than 25 minutes. But if I see that, okay, I ended up spending 35 minutes on it, clearly it's a sign that you need to fix it. So do your SimCET analysis, it will point out the areas for improvement and then work on that. Okay. Of course, easier said than done. Okay, I'm not saying that things are going to suddenly change for you. It will be a gradual improvement, but you will get there. Now there are some things that I recommend all students to do, but invariably people don't end up doing it. The first thing is reading, okay, and generally a lot of students have very narrow view about what reading contributes towards. So if I tell people that read for 35 to 30 to 45 minutes every day, they will ask, okay, but I'm not going to do a lot of RCs in the exam, so why should I read so much, right? And there are students like that, I'm not kidding. There are students who will say that I am not good at RC, my English is not that great, I am not going to do RCs, so let me not read. But see, when you read, your reading speed improves, which helps you to even read LR caselet faster, quant questions faster, and everything that you get in VRC faster. So it is going to help you universally across all the sections. It's not only necessary for the VRC section. Okay, so don't have that sort of a mindset. Also, CET RCs tend to be far easier compared to what you may see in other exams. So if you are somebody who is thinking that I'm not good at RC, I would suggest that you start reading every day. If you read 30 to 45 minutes, gradually you will see change in your ability to comprehend, your speed will go up, your focus will go up, it will help you in general. So don't have a very narrow mindset towards that. So reading will definitely help. Okay. Then tables. So tables, reciprocals, squares, cubes, etc. A lot of students don't do this because they think that either they will calculate it on the spot. So if I ask you to calculate say 11 cube, You can always do 11 into 11 into 11, but it helps if you remember that it is 1331. So all these things, 1 to 16 reciprocals for example, is super handy when it comes to data interpretation. So if I ask you, say whatever 1 upon 11, you have to know that it is 9.09%. If I say 1 upon 7, you have to know it is around about 14%. So those things help you to approximate, calculate faster, which is a key skill when it comes to CET. So not doing this is disservice to yourself. Then A to Z positions, and all the tests that I've been to, and I've attempted far more tests than all of you. Whenever I go to these exams, and I will always find somebody who is sitting next to me, when they are given the rough sheet, they will start writing A, B, C, D, etc. They'll write till M, then from N to Z they will write in the reverse order, and they will do 1, 2, 3, 4 and all of that. So every time there is a puzzle which is coding decoding, they will basically refer to that sheet, and that's a super useless exercise in my view, because you're wasting your time referring to those positions every time. It wouldn't take you, I would say, maybe half a day to just by heart these positions, and if you just keep applying that in your sim CETs, it has become part of your knowledge, so nobody will be able to take it away from you. And some students say that it's so difficult to remember these things. It's not. I mean, can you forget A to Z? If I force you right now to forget A to Z, can you forget A to Z? No. So studying something and doing it really well the first few times will help you to remember it properly. Z to A, for example. Can you remember Z to in the reverse order? Yes, not very difficult, and very useful if you get questions where the letters are given in the reverse order. So rather than writing positions, there you can even do just counting on your fingers, and you will be able to answer questions. So do A to Z and Z to A. Another thing which is something that people don't even try purely because they think that they can't, is solving without pen paper. So one thing that I would recommend people to do is, whenever you do any exercise, let's say you have done a quant exercise and that is on percentage, you have solved all the questions from class exercise or practice exercise. Now what you do is go through each and every question and revise steps in your head. That okay, if two items are sold at, let's say, same selling price, one at X% profit, the other at X% loss, then there is a loss which is given by this formula. Okay, so these are the initial steps that you need to take to solve this question. Now why this exercise is important is because it helps you to retain it better. The second thing is, when you go for the test, you don't start writing every single thing. See, only once you have practiced it enough, you will resist that temptation. Otherwise, every time we are like, okay, fine, let me start writing that SP is say 1.2 CP, SP2 is 0.8 CP, etc. But if it is 20% profit, 20% loss, same SP, there is a formula. You know the formula, you can just substitute in your head and answer it, rather than writing it every single time. But that will not suddenly happen during the exam. You have to practice it a lot offline. You have to practice it when you are taking sim CETs. Then only it will become part of who you are. Otherwise, you will end up writing it, okay, during the test. So for you to be in a situation where you can do things orally, you have to calculate it as much as possible without pen and paper. And finally, solving a lot of puzzles. See, all of us have a natural aptitude, and CET is a test of what we call acquired aptitude over a period of time. All of the tests are essentially. How do you improve that in the limited time that is available? So you force yourself to get better at it. So let's say, for example, if I give you a simple puzzle, right? So if I say, okay, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, tell me what will be the next number. All of you will be able to answer the question because these are odd numbers. But now if I tell you some random question, and that is the logic that you have never encountered in life, but you solve it with effort, you will not forget it. So solving all of these things, right, whether it is brain teasers, Sudoku, Kakuro, they help you a lot in making better connections. So when you see numbers, you start associating them with something. For example, if I say 255, right? So 255, if I know that, okay, 16 square is 256 minus 1. So when I see the number in question, I know that this is somehow related to 16 square minus 1. There could be some other logic. Maybe it is 5 into 51, for example. But then only if I start thinking in various directions, I will be able to actually arrive at the answer. So it's a very important thing in logical puzzles, series, coding, decoding questions, etc., to be familiar with some of these things. Another thing is word games, right? So if you do a lot of crosswords, for example, it will also improve your vocabulary. It will make learning fun for you. So don't think that let me sit tomorrow and do 10 crosswords. So you can't do that because that is going to be a waste of time. Maybe you can do something else instead. But let me do one crossword every single day. It will help me to be in touch with vocab, and also it is fun rather than just mugging up words from the word list that is given to you. Okay, so figure out how to enhance your natural aptitude, and it can be enhanced. So don't think that your natural aptitude is a constant thing, you will not be able to improve it. Okay. All right, now coming to 60 days plan. So how do you structure the next 60 days? The first 20 days, so from now till whatever another 3 weeks time, let's put it that way, these weeks I'm going to spend on learning concepts. Okay, now some of you may be thinking, I have just started, right? I have not done any sort of preparation. Even then, should I be taking the 5 sim CETs that you have written? My answer is yes. Okay, because see, what happens is it will at least give you a start that okay, this is where you stand. So people who have just started their preparation, you also take CETs, the mock CETs that we have given. Maybe instead of 5, if you want, you can take only 3. Right? See, all of this is customizable. I am not saying because I have written it on board, you just follow it blindly. If you want to tweak this a little bit, you can. But I'm saying 5, you can do 3 if you want. If somebody says 2, you can do 2. Okay. But you now will know that where do I stand. So let's say you are somebody who has just started your preparation. You take a full length test, you realize that you have got a score of 50 marks, correct? But that is a starting point. So you know that from 50, how do I go to let's say 60 or 70? So if you go to a mentor and say that I've taken a test, I'm at 50, tell me what is the next step. The mentor will be in a better position to answer that question rather than you going and saying, tell me how do I improve, right? Because I don't have any background about you. So in terms of learning concepts, I'll focus a lot on getting my fundamentals correct and doing the class exercise at least. So those of you who are let's say CET, CMAT students with us, you have the class exercise, the courseware. At least I will do class exercise of as many topics as I can. Now if your batch has recently started, maybe you will not be able to finish most of the concepts, and that is okay. Whatever topics that you finish, when you take the SIM CET, figure out if you are able to answer questions from those topics. Ignore the topics that you have not covered so far. That is okay. So if you have done only 50% of syllabus, out of 200, you still have about 100 questions that you can solve. So focus on that rather than worrying about the other 100 questions. So if I have not done P&C probability yet, I will not go to a SIM CET, and if I see a probability question, I'm going to just go away from it. I'm not going to attempt that. That is completely fine. So first 20 days is going to be mostly on learning concepts and just understanding where do I stand if I take a full length test at this point of time. Then comes the middle 20 days, right? So middle 20 days, I'm going to revise concepts. Now those of you who have already prepared for say CAT, NMAT, SNAP, CET, NMAT, etc. This part, it's not going to be learning concepts for you, that's going to be more of revising concepts for you, correct? But for people who are doing it for the very first time, you will revise concepts in the middle 20 days. Okay, now you will also be learning a lot of new concepts that time, so you'll have to juggle a little bit. As I said, those of you who have recently started, the amount of effort that you will have to put in will be on the higher side. And then practice topic wise questions. So topic wise tests have been given to you, you can practice it from that, or you can do of course the practice exercises that have been given to you. And I've written 5 SIM CETs. But again, if you think that no, I can do more, you can do more. If you think no, I should do 3, you can do 3 also. It's just that start taking CET mocks very early because it takes a lot of time to get better at test taking. So test taking itself is an art. You cannot suddenly get better at it. So I will have to give myself enough time before my body sort of adapts, because right now a lot of people will not be even fit to take a 2.5 hour test, right? You start getting bored after 1.5 hours, you're like thinking when will the time get over, and so on. So you need to be in control of that first of all. So my recommendation is sitting for 3 hours, first half an hour you do nothing, and then you do a 2.5 hour test. It builds stamina if you do that. And then the last 20 days, and this is going to be purely a strategy improvement, fixing those small gaps that are there kind of a phase. wherein you also do a lot of test taking. So in the last 20 days, you will end up taking almost 10 tests, and I am saying 5, 5, 10 because we offer 20 sim CETs. I have seen students in the past using multiple test series and doing more tests, but beyond a point, it doesn't add a lot of value. You have to figure out whether I really need it or not. See, when you go to, say, a wedding reception, right, and you have a nice buffet in front of you, you have a lot of food items. You are not going to eat everything that is out there. You will first think, okay, am I hungry? How hungry am I? Is certain kind of some food, is that something that I really like or I don't like? Should I eat it? Should I not eat it? You're going to ask yourself those questions and only take something that you enjoy and something that will fulfill you, right? You are not going to eat everything, and that is why taking only tests back to back sometimes can get counterproductive. You also have to give yourself a lot of rest in between. So that is why if you follow something like this, in the first 20 days you're basically taking one test every 4 days. In this phase as well, in the last one you're taking a test every alternate day, and that will still ensure that you are sort of fairly easing into the whole thing. But if you think that no, this is too much for me in the last 20 days, you can increase the number here and then reduce this to about 7 or 8. If you do, let's say, 7, it still would be something like one test every 3 days. So this much effort is required. Now, those of you are planning to take fewer mocks, you are still, you can do that. I'm not saying no, because see, when I was in JBIMS, I had some of my friends who had not taken so many mocks, right? So 20 mocks, for example, may not be required for everybody. Some of you may be even okay with 10 mocks, maybe 15 mocks. Some of you may be okay even with 5 mocks. Whatever is the right number for you, I would suggest that you chase that number. Okay, so don't think that everybody has to take 20, but 20 should suffice. Ideally, you would not need more than 20, but if you think that no, I'm going to need that, you can always go for one more test series, and that should help you to get that number that you are looking for. What I will definitely do is extremely thorough analysis. So figuring out what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what I need to work on, and so on. Maintaining error log. What's an error log? Error log is essentially writing down what kind of mistakes am I making. So if I say, for example, get the tone questions wrong every time, or if I don't know a formula because of which I got a question wrong, so I'm going to write that. If I make a silly mistake, I'm going to write that. So error log, if you revisit between the two tests that you take, it will help you to avoid the pitfalls, right? So there are some issues that you're typically encountering. This will help you to stay away from those. And then one formula and concept book. So whenever I solve questions and whenever I get, let's say I come across a new formula or a theorem or anything that will help me to get to a higher score, I'm going to write it in my book. So it's a personal diary, personal journal that you maintain, wherein you write down these things. Now a lot of students, and we have had, I've had this question multiple times from students, that give me a formula book, right? Why don't you give me a formula book? The thing is, this effort that you put in creating your own formula concept book, that helps you to remember. So if I give you something which is ready-made, and anyway you have the courseware with you, all the formulae are there already. So it's your responsibility to create something that you can use for revision. Because if you use somebody else's already created content, you are not putting effort to go through it. So for example, let's say volume of a sphere. Volume of a sphere, the formula is there in your book. But if I haven't used it in questions, if I haven't written it a couple of times in my formula book, right, I will not be able to remember that. So that is why make sure that you put in some effort in creating this, and that is the revision material that you use. And one very important thing with CET. So see, CET does not have negative marking. And because of this, invariably there's a temptation that let me mark all the questions. So my advice is avoid random marking in the first 10 sim CETs. Now some of you may think, why this, right? Because it will help you to identify what are true areas of strength and improvement. See, let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say currently I'm able to attempt 150 questions, okay? And out of that I'm getting, say, 120 correct. But I decide to do random marking. I random mark the remaining 50 questions, out of which I get, let's say, 15 questions correct. So what will my analysis show? That I attempted all 200 questions and I got 120 plus 15, which is 135. So it will give me that false confidence, because see, on my bad day, out of those 50 questions that I randomly mark, I may get only 5 questions correct. So my actual score is 125 then, not 135. So the random marking gives you false hope, gives you a false reality, and that is something that is misleading. So that is why I recommend that first 10 SimCETs, which we are going to do in the first 40 odd days, do not do random marking. Only attempt genuine questions for the entire 2.5 hour duration. See how much you are getting from that. That will help you to understand your true accuracy percentage and areas of strength and improvement. The last 10 mocks that you take, of course, do the entire random marking, because you also need to get used to that. People I've seen sometimes are not able to even do that because they have never done it in practice. So please do it in practice. Reserve, let's say, the last 5 minutes to do only random marking, and as much as possible, avoid complete random marking. You at least read the question, maybe eliminate couple of options, and then take a shot, so that your probability of getting a right answer is higher. Okay. All right, let's come to questions. I'm going to take a few questions first of all from the chat window, and then we'll be taking the questions that I've written on screen. Okay. All right, so how much would I target in mocks by the end of Feb and then by the end of March? So as I said, if you're targeting top 10 institutes, you should be targeting a score of 100 plus. If you're targeting top 4 colleges, 125 plus is what you should be aiming for. And if your target is JBIMS, a 135 plus should be the aim. How to improve speed in reading? Rachel, so it's a function of reading, right? So the first thing would be to read as much as possible. That automatically starts improving your reading span, your attention span goes up. So all of this will help you to have a faster reading speed. The thing is, we keep thinking that we will do something, but we don't. And that is where the problem is. So if I keep thinking that my reading speed is not great, how do I improve it? And I keep thinking about this for the next 2 weeks, my reading speed will still be the same. But over the next 14 days, if I read every day, I'll have a different outcome. Okay, so start as early as possible. I think that will help. What are the good mocks for CET? Karan, of course, you're on IMS channel, so IMS. Feisner, last year I got 95.16 in MBA CET. This time around got 88.5 percentile in SNAP. How should I prepare to target JB as a general candidate? So firstly, 95 percentile in CET is a good benchmark for us to work with. Now, what you need to figure out is, what are the topics where I normally struggle? In the first 20 days from now on, or the next 3 weeks, I will focus on these topics that I'm not good at. Let me do at least 20-25 questions of each of the topics, so that my content is sorted. And then I will see how I am performing on the test. So is there any improvement? Because now last year's 95.16, this year if you start, you may start at a higher level. And that happens because you have taken multiple tests now. So when I was a student the very first time taking CET, my average score used to be around 130, right? But when I took the second time, my average mock score used to be around 150. So that is a function of two things. One, you have solved more questions, and the other is you have become wiser. So now you know what to do, what not to do, and things like that. Okay. Sahil, I am struggling with frequent silly mistakes in LR and quant. Can you please share specific tips to avoid careless errors? Sahil, so one thing that we discussed, right, which is maintaining error log. So whenever you make a mistake next time, write it in your diary that this is the mistake that I have made, and over a period of time you will start realizing what to avoid. So the awareness is the important part of it. How to improve critical reasoning questions? Abhimanyu, so for all such questions the answer is going to be practice more. But you have to approach critical reasoning questions as if it's a logical reasoning problem. So you have to read it, you have to understand firstly how to solve those questions, which is not bringing in any outside information, testing the assumptions very carefully, or drawing out conclusion only if it is true across all situations, and things like that. So practice is the first part of it, that you actually practice questions, and during the test, then again going fast, not making a mistake in reading the question and things like that. But it's easier said than done. Okay, so it will take some time before you get better at it. All right, let me start with a few questions from here as well. What is the centralized admission process? So a lot of students have this question that should I apply to JBIMS separately? I'm going to make a video on the JBIMS application process, but just to give you some basics, what happens is after CET result, the Maharashtra CET cell will announce something called centralized admission process. It's a process in which you fill a single form wherein you put multiple preferences, as in the college preferences where you want to apply, and then there is a centralized allocation of seats. So you don't have to apply to the individual colleges separately, but this will be done after CET is conducted and CET result is announced. So right now there is nothing that you need to do. Okay. Second question is MMS versus PGDM, because a lot of colleges, Wellinger for example, now has PGDM as well as MMS program. So the confusion could be, should I apply to PGDM, should I not apply to PGDM? I would say for PGDM, the brand name of course matter. So wherever you see PGDM programs being offered, if the college name, the brand name is overall good, you can definitely apply there. MMS admissions, which is the Master of Management Studies, that will be conducted after CET result, which is through cap rounds. Right now there is nothing that you need to do for MMS applications. If you have filled the CET form, and those of you who haven't, of course the deadline is approaching, so make sure that you fill it as early as possible. Then another fundamental question, should non-Maharashtra students take the CET? Now the answer for this question is yes, you should. Because though the number of seats is on the lower side, all India students are fighting for 18 seats at JBIMS, which is 15% of the sanctioned intake. So if you look at the number of seats, 15% of that is reserved for all India candidates. So all non-Maharashtra candidates can claim those seats. A Maharashtra student can also put a claim on that because it is all India category, and for that they accept CET, CMAT, MAT, ATMA, etc. So till last year they were accepting CET, CAT, MAT, ATMA, CMAT, right? So you can take, for example, if you have not taken CMAT, alongside CET you can also take the approaching MAT, the ATMA that is going to happen. You can take some of these exams. If you get a very high score, you have a shot at the all India seats. So I would suggest that all of you try it out, take the next MAT, next ATMA that is going to happen, and then targeting the Maharashtra based colleges through those scores. And it is possible, a lot of students have done it in the past. Institute comparison, I would say do it later. Okay, so students keep asking about say Sidnam versus Wellinger, Bajaj versus whatever. There's no point getting into it right now. You just need to appear for the CET now, prepare well for that. Institute comparison, you can always do it later. Plus the good thing is that there is a lot of past cutoff data available, which itself tells you the institute comparison, it becomes obvious. So you will always see JB cutoff is higher than Sidnam, Sidnam cutoff is higher than Wellinger. So clearly the ranking itself is JBIMS, Sidnam and Wellinger when it comes to CET. So don't have to do it at this point of time. Don't worry too much about cutoffs right now. Focus on improving your score. And the final question is, can I still make it, right? If I'm struggling at this point of time, I'm not getting enough scores. I got a message that day, I took a mock and I got a score of 60 something. Can I still make it? See, the point is within 60 days, a lot can happen. But that depends a lot on how much effort you are going to put. So somebody who is right now at 60 or 70, thinking of getting into JBIMS, is that possible? My answer is yes, but the amount of effort that you will have to put will be very, very high, because you are fighting with people who are already sitting at say a 120, 130, 140, correct? So to beat them, you will have to do something which is very, very different compared to what they are doing right now, which is in terms of putting more hours of efforts, doing more number of questions, taking more mock tests, analyzing it critically, and so on and so forth. So you'll have to do different things compared to them to beat them. So can you do it? The answer is yes, but you have to really put in the effort that's needed. Okay. All right. We'll take a few more questions. What's a daily practice strategy to reinforce learning and improve problem solving skills after completing the syllabus? Sahil, so if you let's say do a topic today, let's say you've done theory, solved examples, class exercise, I will take a break for 1 day or so and then do practice test, so that I'm able to check also whether I've retained the things that I learned. So generally if you do that and you continue it for other topics also, at the end you should be fine. Revision wise, I would say every 1 to 2 weeks you revise all the formula that you have written. So that's why I said you maintain a formula book, and that's the only thing that you revise. You don't have to go back to your books every single time, because if you learnt it properly the first time, you don't have to really go back to it, unless the first time itself you didn't do well. So if I tell you successive percentage change formula right now, you're able to do 5 questions on it. After a gap of 1 day, if you're able to do those questions, and after 7 days also, if you're able to recall, you have now understood what it is. You don't have to necessarily again go back to the book. Now I'll just write it in my formula book and revise that. See, formula book is like a very concise thing. So those notes is the revision content. I cannot really go back to my books again and again. Okay, how to develop series based aptitude. Okay, so again, more practice, more number of questions. Dinesh, last time even 150 couldn't fetch JBIMS. Yeah, I mean, that's why I said, right, that it's not necessary that a score will fetch you JBIMS. Ultimately, everything is relative. So there have been years when the scores have gone very, very high. So when I was a student, for example, my year 169 was the topper, and I had 163 that year. JB had closed at 151 that year. Okay, so it depends a lot on the actual level of the test. I have taken IMS Catapult course. How should I use it for my CET preparation? So you have been given 50 topic test. So that is one thing that you can use. ADMAT masterclasses is the second thing that you should use. And then the full length test of various ADMATs that have been given to you. What should I target for JBIMS as all India candidate? See, percentile wise 99.99. So then there is no room for error. I would say you have to be aiming for 150 plus in any of the test to have a shot at it. Even at 150 may not work out, but that depends on the test. Percentile wise, a 99.99 is what you will need as an all India candidate. Of course, that's why I said a better route would be MAT and ATMA in addition to CET. So I will take the CET for sure, but I will also take MAT, I will also take ATMA and see how much I get there. Because if I get say a 99.99 in any of those tests or a 99.99 on the CMAT, then I'm basically in JB, correct? So that is why take those tests as well, so that you create more opportunities for yourself. How many mocks will we get on IMS portal? There are 20 mocks that you will get. I have 78 percentile in CAT, due to which I have inferiority complex. Will I be able to get into JB? Firstly, there is no reason to have any sort of complex. 78 percentile is not bad. You will of course get some or the other college through that as well. You have to think of it this way, that at least you know now where you stand. Right? Now, can I get into JB or not depends a lot on your CET mock test performance. I would suggest that you forget that 78 percentile that you got and focus on the next thing, which is CET. So start taking mocks, start preparing for it, and once you start seeing a better score, of course that complex will also start going away. Please take CET masterclasses on portal. See, we have given 20 ADMAT masterclasses that basically covers everything that you need. Any specific video for preparation MHCT on IMS portal apart from test? Ask the ADMAT masterclasses is what you need to refer to. What all exams does JBIMS accept? So till last year it was CET, CMAT, CAT, MAT and ATMA, right? So you can submit any of these scores. Should I mark tukkas in mocks or should I keep it real? Right, so no random marking. For the first 10 mocks is what I recommend. You can say first 5 mocks I'm not going to do that, and the next 15 I'll do random marking. That's okay. At least the first few mocks, 5 or 10, you should not do random marking to understand where you really stand. Can't you extend the validity of CAT 24 course till May instead of March? So see, it's very clear that we're going to extend it till the time where people need it. Once all the major exams are done, then we basically end the validity of the program. Okay, any other questions? Anything that anybody wants to ask? Otherwise, we are more or less done. We have covered quite a few things, and I think there's enough that you can take away from this session and start working on it. See, one thing that I would suggest is there is a lot of guidance that is available, correct? The important thing is whether you actually start putting it into practice or not. Okay, so just watching some video is not going to help you, but take whatever you want to take from that video and start implementing that. So start working on your content, take CETs, as I mentioned, the mock CETs, take MAT ATMA to create more opportunities for yourself, and something will work out, right? So you have to keep a positive mindset and not really worry too much about how you have done on the other exams. So when again I was a student at JB, there was a student who had almost just about 50% in graduation. So your graduation score has nothing to do with how you'll do on an aptitude test, right? There were people who had completely bombed their let's say the CAT or the other exams that they had, so never did well on that, right? So it's not necessary that you should be doing well across every exam that you take. You just have to figure out that at least one exam should work for me. So if it is going to be CET, prepare with all your effort into it and something will work out. Okay. You look exhausted, take care. Okay, so I'm kind of exhausted. So thanks for, I think, good that you figured it out. It's almost the end of the day also, and for whatever reasons I've not been sleeping well. Aryan book is good for more questions to practice. Aryan book is nice, but see, the point is, if you already have so much content on my IMS, right, you would not need to do more than that. So finish this first. If you then think that, okay, I need to get something from the market, I would suggest that you can. But there is enough content available in my IMS itself so that you don't need to do more. Okay. Did forms of colleges open after CMAT result like Wellinger, etc.? So for Wellinger, they have mentioned that after CMAT result, you can enter your score, but they will not open the application again, right? So you will have to keep checking for respective colleges, go to the college website and see whether the applications are open. We have something called B School Zone, which you can check out, and there you will be able to figure out the upcoming application deadlines. Alright, percentile not showing for SimCET. So Vijay, see, the point is we cannot give percentile just like that. So a sizable number of students have to take the test before we release percentile. Right now, very few takers have started attempting the SimCETs. So once we have a sizable number, then we'll of course release the benchmarks. SimCET is comparatively difficult than CET. Not really. I mean, in some cases, yes, but I can't generalize that yes, it is difficult. So in SimCETs, if you're getting something like a 120, 130, generally in CET you would get higher, but that is also a function of you have become better in terms of problem solving. On the test day, there's a lot of adrenaline which is helping you to perform better. So there are other parameters also. So it's not like a very simple generalization that SimCET is easier than the actual SimCET is more difficult than the actual CET. But I would say if you're getting whatever score here, generally we have seen people end up doing better than that. And in fact, in SimCETs we have generally kept it on the higher side because otherwise what happens is if you keep giving easy papers and the actual paper comes out to be difficult, you don't know how to react. But if you are used to difficult papers, you can handle easy papers easily. So that is why don't keep only practicing easy problems. If the actual paper comes out to be difficult, you will be at loss of ideas. Instead, practice more difficult questions, which will help you to even do the easier ones. Okay. How many right attempts for JBIMS in 25? Others, nobody knows, right? So unless we see the actual test, we'll not be able to comment on that. But looking at the past data, etc., 150 plus is what you should be aiming for at least. How can I take interview coaching from IMS is what Mohit is asking. Mohit, we have a program for GDPI, both online and classroom. If you go to IMS India website, you will be able to find more details. Okay, for Maharashtra candidates, score in mocks for JB, at least a 130 plus should be the aim. But yes, that depends from mock to mock. Okay. All right, I think we can end the session here. We have covered quite a bit. If there are any questions, of course, if you were not able to ask question today, leave it as a comment. I'll try and get back as early as possible. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining. I hope this interaction has helped. We have been almost live for about 55 minutes. Hope this discussion has helped you. And if there's anything, let me know in the comment section. I'll try and get back at the earliest. Wish all of you all the best and thank you so much for joining us today. Bye, take care.